Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and in the shed back behind me, I'm in the beginning stages of building a 28-foot long powerboat based upon Doug Hyland's boulder design. Today's episode, we're going to finish up the Strongback. Welcome back to the channel. Now that we have the rear section of the Strongback constructed, braced, and leveled with the laser, we can turn our attention to getting this front section built and installed. So as you can see, the construction is fairly similar to what we did on the longer rear section, with the exception of the sides only being a single layer of 3/4 plywood instead of the double. The main consideration here is that the whole Strongback has to narrow down quite a bit in order to accommodate the molds when they get installed. We'll zoom out here and take a look. There we go. And really the only problem left to solve is exactly how I'm going to wind up mounting this last forward mold. I think for now I'm just going to satisfy myself with putting that first mold on using these 2 plywood fingers that come off the front section, and then revisit the final bracing and positioning for this first station once the stem is installed, as it's going to wind up overlapping the first 2 stations anyway, and also requiring some of its own bracing down low. I know so far I haven't really said much about myself in this video series, so this little task at hand gives a good opportunity for me to explain a little bit of where I've come from and what my approach is to building things. I have almost 30 years in residential construction and cabinet manufacturing, and during that time I've developed a very strong preference for using templates and tick sticks and pretty much whatever I can in order to keep the tape measure in the pocket. So this is a really good example right here. I'm using this very frontmost piece of plywood that's going to go on the Strongback, and I'm using it back here at this last cross brace to lay out the lines that's separating the cleats that I'm going to use to hold the front section on. There's going to be a lot of this type of thing going forward, and if you see something that I'm doing that you think maybe I can improve at, please feel free to throw a comment down below and share what you know. I know I brought this up in the last episode, but I do want to reiterate that the 2x4s that you see on the ground right here are going to serve as skids for pulling the entire completed hull out of the shed for rollover when the time comes. There will be, however, significant diagonal bracing, cross bracing, and possibly even some additional pieces added to the sides for stability before that happens. So for right now, the main goal is to just make sure that everything's stable enough to be able to push against the hull as we're completing the planking.
Pretty good.
In case any of you have been cringing out there watching me use 3-inch construction screws to put these legs on, I'm gonna let you know right now that's a temporary thing. Before all the weight of the forms goes on, I'm gonna replace at each location with 3 of these. These are 5-inch by 1/4 inch engineered screws that have the same weight capacity as a 3/8 lag bolt. So there shouldn't be any problem with this moving forward. And if you're anything like me, you can stop yelling at the television and making your wife wonder if you're nuts. Now that the front section's been joined on and the legs have been screwed on with adequate fasteners and the front section leveled in the same plane with the previous 3 leg sets, it's time to turn my attention to straightening everything from side to side. So the way I'm going to approach that is I'm going to treat the front leg set and the rear leg set as fixed points, and I've gone ahead and installed diagonal bracing at both ends. Then I went and marked center line at each one of the 4 leg sets, and I'm going to take this laser and with a series of clamps and maybe a little bit of leverage, I'm going to take the second and third leg sets and pull those into place. I'd call this a strong start. This is at the second section of legs moving aftward. All I did was turn the laser up and align it with both the foremost and aftmost center line marks. I'm going to call this good and go ahead and lock that in and then move back towards the next leg set. Here I am at the third leg set. That amount that we're off right there is probably less than 1/8 of an inch. And in the great scheme of things, that's not going to matter at all, as the forms will get straightened up independently using the laser. All right, everybody, today's the day I've been looking forward to since the moment the plan set first showed up in its cardboard box. I'm going to be able to take this stack of molds and get them put up on top of the Strongback, leveled out, lined up, and finally really get to see what the holes are going to look like. Although I have spent that time in SketchUp, thinking I'm getting a feel for what it's really going to seem like, there's just no substitution for finally seeing everything in place. All right, now time for the moment of truth. The first mold goes up. Although it's nice having the sun just to kind of make the whole boat shed cheery, it's making it a little bit difficult to see the laser, so I'm just going with these white stickers, and then the green lines popping out okay for me. I don't know if that's going to show up very well on video, but it's clear enough for me here for these purposes.
For those of you out there watching that might be familiar with the boulder design, I do want to point out that the two bulkheads that you can see here in the SketchUp model, this forward one and then the one that separates the pilot house from the cabin, were intended by Doug Hyland to be installed in lieu of two of the station molds. However, the way that I've laid out the Strongback, makes that not really possible to accomplish because the Strongback stringers would run right through the middle of the bulkheads. I don't anticipate this is going to be a problem though, because once the hull's turned over, I can take some template plywood and some tick sticks and transfer the shape of the bulkheads exactly how I want them, and should be able to create those with a minimum of fuss.
Well, there it is in all of its glory. It's wonderful to be able to finally see the shape of the hull and get an idea of the scale and size and general awesomeness of this design. That's going to do it for this episode. And for the next one, we're going to start actually installing some boat parts with motor transoms going to go in and a few more plywood pieces in the aft end. And then the transom's going to go on. And from this point forward, it won't be 14 times for the same thing over and over again, as we're actually going to start building a boat. I appreciate you sticking with me this far. It's been a blast to share the videos with you. And now that we're really digging into the boat building, I can't wait to be able to get more done here and share more with you guys. Thanks for joining me.